And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Joining us now is Rob Natelson from the Independence Institute from Colorado. Rob, good to have you with us.
It's great to be with you again, Kevin.
Well, like I said, it's always wonderful when we have people in the Mountain Time Zone. It doesn't
Right.
happen that often, sir.
Yeah, I always get annoyed at these national broadcasts that talk about Central and Eastern Time and sometimes Pacific, and they forget the most important time zone of all.
I would agree with you, sir. Let's talk a little bit about red flag bills. Obviously, we're fighting those here in Idaho. Is this a move nationally that you're seeing?
It really is. I've actually, in the last few days, been over the laws of 4 different states, and they are alarming in the disregard for basic constitutional rights. I understand the need to take guns from people who are imminently going to use them for to harm themselves or others, but these laws go far beyond that.
Indeed, of course, we've got our own version of that. Many critics of the Marsy's Law here in the Gem State, a victim rights law that many gun advocate groups say it could be a backdoor to red flag laws. For people that aren't familiar listening to KIDO Talk Radio, Rob, what is a red flag law and why is it so important to stop them?
Well, the goal of them is to deal with potential mass shooters or people who are going to use their guns to harm others. There is a provision, traditional provision in law, which allows a court to issue an injunction or a restraining order without informing the person for just a few days. But these go beyond that. These allow either law enforcement or some complainant to come into a court, allege that someone has guns and is going to be using them for a bad purpose, and present evidence to the court which is not at all contradicted. The court, on a low standard of evidence, can order the police to remove the guns from this person. When the police knock on his door, maybe the first time he ever learns about this order, they can be taken away. The time limits vary anywhere from 7 to 21 days. They then hold a hearing, but the hearing there's no jury, violating at least the spirit of the Sixth Amendment. It's a judge alone. The burden of proof is not beyond a reasonable doubt. The evidence against the gun owner can be in written form. Generally, there is no requirement that the person who alleges that the gun owner is going to do something wrong show up in court, and so there's no ability of the gun owner to confront his accusers. There's no ability to cross-examine in some of these hearings. When the guns are taken away, and this depends on the law, once they're taken away, even if the gun owner is found completely innocent, it may be very difficult for him to get his property back. Some of these laws contain no deadline at all for the return of the weapons. And for some of them, especially at the preliminary hearing, the burden of proof is very low. There's also no requirement that the person who wants the gun owner to lose his property post bond. Traditionally in orders like this, somebody who seeks a judge's order without notifying the other side at least has.
Rob? Looks like we lost Rob. It must be the NSA or the deep state. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436. 580-KIDO. We will attempt to get Mr. Natelson back from the Independence Institute. Before that, though, R. Kelly. You remember R. Kelly. He's 52 years old. He's had issues with sexually abusing young people. Broke his silence this morning on the CBS show, CBS This Morning.
I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I gave out 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career.
There we have it. The end of his career, perhaps prison time for R. Kelly. We'll get to that in a minute. If you've been watching the Leaving Neverland documentary on HBO, my, oh my, do we have an issue. But the deep state hasn't won. Rob Natelson returns to join us once again here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. And good to have you back. Like I said, you never know when the deep state insurgents will strike.
Yeah, well, I wish I could blame him for this one, but it was my own darn fault for pushing a button I shouldn't have pushed.
Well,
I think that all you missed was that typically in orders like this where there's no notice to the victim, the person asking for the order has to post bond in case the charges prove false. And typically these red flag laws have no provision along those lines. So they wind up violating several different parts of the Bill of Rights and of the 14th Amendment. And as far as I can tell, Kevin, there's been no real defense of the constitutionality of these laws.
Now, let me hit you with this one, though, Rob. I'm going to play, let's just say my name is Joel, and I'm a young millennial. And all of a sudden, I think these school shootings happen, these people with guns are evil. What's the harm in violating some antiquated, now I don't believe this, some antiquated structure called the Constitution if it's for the greater good? And is that more in line with what you're hearing from people promoting these red flag laws, just to stop the guns?
I don't think that they're even addressing seriously the constitutional issues. I think there's a coalition of people here. There's one group that just wants to attack gun owners however they can. There are other people who are frantic, and sometimes deservedly so, over mass shootings. And then there are politicians who want to appear to do something. But it's like the Constitution is off their radar. Now, if this young millennial, if it was brought home to him that he could lose his iPhone in a midnight raid by the police based upon some allegation that he didn't have a chance to rebut, he might be a little bit more concerned about it. The Constitution protects iPhones for the same reason it protects guns. In fact, it gives even more protection to guns than to iPhones. But the Bill of Rights protects all of us, not just gun owners.
Rob Nadelson joining us. So, again, back to the young millennial by the name. Actually, I don't even think he's a millennial anymore. He's like the one after that. I don't even know. I've lost track of what the plurals or Y's or Z's or.
It might be Z.
It might be Z.
Yeah.
But the issue with these kids, and the reason why I'm saying this is because we're talking to parents and grandparents that are trying to explain you just can't go into somebody's house and take their guns based on unsubstantiated allegations. There is something, as you said, Rob, called due process.
That's right. The 14th Amendment says every state has to grant, cannot take life, liberty, or property without due process of law. It's really interesting to watch the position of liberals on this particular issue because a generation ago, liberals were very strong on civil liberties, and they won a great Supreme Court decision called Sniadak versus Family Finance, which essentially held you can't take people's property based upon an order issued without notice unless the circumstances are extraordinary. And if you look at the codes of most states, you'll find that on the rare occasions where an order is issued without notifying the subject of the order, there are extraordinary protections in place. What these red flag bills do all too often is they sweep these protections away. Now, you can still have a red flag bill. I mean, you can still have a mechanism for getting guns away from somebody who's maybe going to be who is mentally ill and is about to go off the rails. But you need to provide for basic protections that are prescribed by the Bill of Rights, a very high burden of proof, an honest hearing, and if the person is found not to be a threat, those weapons need to be returned.
Rob, if people want more information on the Independence Institute and what they can do, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, the best option is to simply go to independenceinstitute.org. That's independenceinstitute.org. As you know, Kevin, I've also got a book out on the original Constitution. It's called The Original Constitution, What It Actually Said and Meant. It explains many of these issues, and it's available at either Barnes & Noble or Amazon.
Sure. And the name of it one more time, sir?
The Original Constitution, What It Actually Said and Meant.
Rob, take care of yourself. Again, good to have a Mountain Time Zone brother on with us here.
It's great to be with you.
Great to be with you. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go to the phones. KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Jim in Middleton. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Living the dream, and you?
Good, good. You're going to have to define that living the dream one morning.
Okay.
Kevin, in regards to Marsy's Law, I was on Facebook a little bit going, around now with a few folks in a good way. But these people that are promoting Marsy's Law, it is definitely a form of backdoor gun control, what they're proposing. Now, if they really cared for the victim, what they would do is any convicted person of a crime against another human being, they should put in there for the victim's rights that criminal shall pay restitution to that person in any form that they were harmed. And if we started passing laws or putting things in like this, criminals will start thinking twice. Even these low-level criminals stealing something from someone and so forth. What harm was done has to be paid back to that person in one form or another. This would go a long way in really protecting victim rights. And now you're speaking of the gentleman, the fellow there in prison who wants a sex change. Well, it goes hand in hand here. You mentioned it. What about the victim?
Right.
We don't talk about that. We have talked about people's freedoms to become a woman or a man at their choosing. Okay, well, if that's a freedom for them to do that, is it mandatory that we pay for the freedom that they decide that they want to be? Because if I decide to be a Protestant or a Mormon or a Muslim, am I going to charge somebody for the change that I want to take or for the teachings that I want to do or so forth, or sex change or like that? So we shouldn't pay for that. If that man wants to make that decision, then he should pay for everything that goes along with it.
Jim, great point, and you're right. If he wants to be a woman, then he should pay for it.
Exactly. He wants to make the conscious choice of doing that, making the adult decision. Okay, you and I certainly don't support that decision. He could make it. We're not going to stand in his way, but I'm not going to pay for it.
Well, and why would we reward that? I mean, again, you'd have people going into prisons just to get a surgery then.
Exactly. I mean, that can be very lucrative if you know you have certain ailments and you get in there and you get better treatment than people out here do. But anyway, Kevin, I'll leave you with that. But Marsy's Law is just a feel-good, backdoor, bullcrap bill and what have you. Put some teeth in it and make the criminal, the convicted criminals, mind you, pay restitution to the victims. Then I'll support Marsy's Law.
Thank you, Jim. Have a great day.
You bet. You too. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Hey, it's Kevin Miller. Coming up next, the president is getting ripped for loving the American flag. You've got 81 people now being subpoenaed by Jerry Nadler. Welcome to the Democrats' America, everybody. Welcome to the age of understanding. Welcome to, we're going to drip, drip, drip to try and take down the greatest American president that we've had since Ronald Reagan. We've got a lot going on. Time to get up and start the day. Waking up on the right side. Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. All right, it is not looking good for R. Kelly. And usually when we have the sound that is this, well, disturbing, we will get it to you. By the way, you will hear this before you'll see it because, thankfully, this has already aired east of the Great River. And thanks to our sources east of the Great River, we already have the sound. Apparently, R. Kelly just loses it during an explosive interview over alleged sexual abuse. Quote, y'all killing me with this blank. We'll get to that. That'll be coming up at 6:40. But first, the president sounding off on the libs and how they're trying to take him down.
They want to do that instead of getting legislation passed. 81 people or organizations got letters. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to our country. I'm not surprised that it's happening. Basically, they've started the campaign. So the campaign begins. But the campaign's actually, their campaign's been going on for the last 2.5 years.
There we have it. You know, the campaign will continue to get President Trump. And then you have these goofy, horrific, late-night comedians that have failed to be funny, like Johnny Carson or Jay Leno. And they've gone into politics, and they've gone into mean-spirited politics. And here you have at CPAC, maybe you saw it online, the president hugging the American flag. Hugging the American flag. Now, many people cynically will say, well, Kevin Miller, doesn't need to hug the American flag. It's great. It's fun. It's exciting. That's pandering. I think in this day and age, I know in this day and age, seeing the American president hug the flag reaffirms a lot, especially since we had 8 years of Mr. Apology, which would be Obama. Let's take a listen to this, and from our friends at Newsbusters here on KIDO Talk Radio, here's Stephen Colbert making fun of President Trump for loving America.
Ever since the flag hugger-in-chief did this the other day.
And essentially what Jeannie Moos on CNN is doing is it's a picture of the president hugging the American flag. You know, for people in flyover country, for people in Idaho that are not contrived, that are not, again, doing these goofy things for social media followers, that's a legitimate, welcomed gesture.
The president holding and murmuring sweet nothings to the stars and stripes has led to strife.
Who does that?
If that flag could tweet, it'd say #MeToo. But one man's grope is another's patriotic caress of Old Glory, which the White House glorified by tweeting a photo captioned America, and Donald Trump Jr. Instagrammed, oh, hell yes. Supporters posted, "Aw, I love when he hugs the flag. Makes me teary. We hug our precious flag that stands for so much, the other side burns it."
I believe that is the first time a flag has ever volunteered to be burned.
Colbert concocted a softcore commercial.
Are you physically attracted to flags? Just can't keep your hands off? Then call today.
And we'll get back to that in a minute. And here you have Jimmy Kimmel, who makes a lot of money, who's promoted by ABC, Stephen Colbert from that decrepit, morally repugnant network, CBS. And I mean, they're making fun of someone for hugging a flag. Really? They're making fun of someone for hugging a flag. Who does this? Do you do this? I would do it. More on that in a minute. KIDO Talk Radio time, 627. You're listening to Kevin Miller on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Gabbard.
And thank you, Larry. Today is Ash Wednesday, the first day of Lent. For those practicing, you'll see people with crosses on their forehead. And again, the preparation for the Easter Vigil from throughout Christianity. We'll have a guest on in the 8 o'clock hour to discuss and tell you where you can get your ashes if it's not raining. But looks like that might be happening today. Back to this point, though. Do you love America? 580-5436. 580-KIDO. I love America. I can remember when I was in Libville, otherwise known as the People's Republic of Pittsburgh, and they were all libs. And they said, Kevin Miller, you need to come in and change the libs. Well, no, the libs got me. Ran me out of town, along with Obama. I could joke about it now. But the fighting words would be, do you love America? And they would say, no, we don't love America. America's a bad place. That's what these folks are about, right?
Kimmel also flogged the flag.
Now you can own a piece of history. A flag embraced by the President of the United States. Gaze proudly upon the orange stain left by the President's red-bronzed face.
In real life, you actually can buy vinyl stickers of the presidential flag embrace as well as posters, but some would rather unsee it. And someone else turned it into a sail that's capsizing a boat. Critics pointed out that President Trump isn't the only flag-loving leader. That's Venezuela's former President Hugo Chavez planning a smooch on his flag. Snuggling with the stars and stripes is nothing new. President Trump is a serial flag hugger. He's done it around half a dozen times, but at least he's consistent. He only locks his arms around the American flag.
There we have it, courtesy of our friends at Newsbusters that we partner with here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. So, when we were in school, we heard that the media is supposed to be fair. Is there anything fair really about that story? Is there anything really fair about the House of Representatives led by Jerry Nadler? I think the president used to call him Fat Jerry, actually subpoenaing 81 people. And you have people saying they should plead the fifth. Of course they should plead the fifth. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. And yet what we're trying to do is to portray the president as bad, to portray the president as corrupt. Therefore, he is corrupt. Okay, that's your big national story. Coming up next, a controversial story out of Eagle, Idaho. No, not involving the purchase or lack of purchase of the water rights, involving a man convicted of a crime that gained national attention. He wants another shot at his verdict. Is that fair? We'll talk about it next. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. Don't forget Glenn Beck right after us today. 9 to Dave Ramsey. Rachel Sutherland joining us. Capitol Hill from Fox News Radio. Remember, when you hear Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio, you're listening to 107.5 FM and 580 AM. Rachel, good morning.
Hey, Kevin.
So, were you behind the closed doors with Michael Cohen?
No, I was not and am not going to be today when he is there with the House Intelligence Committee. They go into something called a SCIF. It's a high security type area. My understanding is you can't even take cell phones in. The intelligence committees are a little different than oversight committees. They do their business a little more on the down low.
Indeed. But, it's funny because I got confused with his behind-the-scenes hearing from the Senate that he did that really wasn't publicized before he did his high-profile hearing with the House. Now this is another one. It's getting confusing.
It is. Actually, this one was a little surprising. This is his fourth appearance on Capitol Hill in a little more than a week. He's set to start his prison term 2 months from today, so May 5th. And he is going yet again, and people are wondering, okay, what are they asking him that they haven't asked before? It could be that they're still, just digging deeper into the Russia probe, into maybe some of those payments that he says he made to pay off women before the 2016 election. They may also ask him about a Wall Street Journal article that appeared yesterday that said that his lawyers were negotiating with the president's lawyers last year for a possible pardon. Now, during the Oversight Committee hearing, which was televised, he said he would neither ask nor accept a pardon from President Trump, but it also could be that his lawyer was acting on his behalf, and he didn't know that was even going on. So probably he'll be asked about that. And I wonder if the intelligence committees will bring him back again. We may find that out. Maybe the chairman, Adam Schiff, will step out to the microphones today and speak a little. But he's usually pretty opaque when he speaks to the media about what's going on in these private hearings.
Boy, it is concerning, of course, Cohen doing the trip before he goes to prison. And I have to believe that was a bombshell, the 81 subpoenas that hit, what was it, yesterday or the day before?
That's right. And the president calling this presidential harassment. I've seen the list. It's just a lot of folks, and some you wouldn't expect, some you would. I mean, Donald Trump Jr., Paul Manafort, Michael Cohen himself, WikiLeaks, the NRA, a lot of different groups, and tons of different documents that are requested. At this point, it's just requests. But this is setting up really a battle that will probably end up with subpoenas. I can't imagine that most of these organizations are just going to say, here's everything you're looking for. So this is just the beginning of a fight and just the beginning of looks like very lengthy investigations, looking at all the documents that they are requesting. Even if they get them, to pour over them would take, I can't imagine how long.
Well, Rachel, I'm glad you're not going to be behind closed doors with those folks. We sure do appreciate you, though.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Rachel Sutherland. Remember, Fox News Radio, only right here on KIDO Talk Radio in the Treasure Valley, joined by Pete from Mountain Home on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Kevin. Is this KIDO 580 and 107.5 FM?
Yes, it is.
Good. Hey, I'm going to ask you to maybe start changing some nomenclature instead of calling them the libs and the liberals, because they really aren't. They've admitted, they've come out and said they're socialists. And actually, they aren't socialists. They're Marxists. They're actually they're communists, and I think maybe we should go back to the good old days and just call them what they are, commies.
Call them commies, huh? Well, some of them say they're not socialists. Do we lump all the libs in?
Well, you look at what the kind of stuff they support, the kind of stuff that they want for America, the way that they trash America. Liberals didn't use JFK. You know, the man was a patriot. I fought in World War II. Yeah, I wouldn't call them liberals. They're not that kind of liberal. JFK, in fact, they'd throw him out of the party now.
Yeah, you know, that is, I don't know if you want to call it like the happened with the Bolsheviks or what, but there is a purge coming within the Democratic Party where you have the AOCs and you have, I mean, Bernie seems like a moderate now.
Oh, you mean AOC, also known as Blunder Woman?
I would say.
Yeah, see, and they really, they're throwing out. You got to be a true believer now, and you look at what they want for America. They are not liberal. They are, in fact, I believe, communists.
Well, we'll throw that out to everybody, Pete. What do you make of these 81 subpoenas?
If I were any of those people or organizations being subpoenaed, I would send a lawyer to that committee and say, we're taking the fifth. And we aren't going to say a word, and we aren't going to give you anything. Go away.
Pete, appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kevin.
Our great friend Pete from Mountain Home joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning. KIDO Talk Radio. Here is Jerry Nadler. Now, Jerry, he's telling the folks this week how he's going to impeach Donald Trump.
President obstructed justice?
Yes, I do. It's very clear that the president obstructed justice. It's very clear. 1,100 times he referred to the Mueller investigation as a witch hunt. He tried to protect Flynn from being investigated by the FBI. He fired Comey in order to stop the Russian thing, as he told NBC News. He's dangled part. He's threatened. He's intimidated witnesses.
Look, there is no Russian thing. There is no Russian thing, number one. Number two, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, then bring it on, big boy. Bring it on, big boy. Come on, Big Nadler. Come on, Jerry. Bring up the articles of impeachment. Nancy Pelosi says you don't do it. You know, this does nothing good for the overall good of our country. You know, just like when we had Michael Cohen's testimony when the president was going toe-to-toe with Kim Jong-un. All that does is make him weak because people around the world say, well, look at him. They're going to get him. You know, the Democrats, they better be very careful with what they're planning.
This is in public.
If that's the case, then is the decision not to pursue impeachment right now simply political, if you believe he obstructed justice?
No, we have to do the investigations and get all this. We do not now have the evidence all sorted out and everything to impeachment. Before you impeach somebody, you have to persuade the American public that it ought to happen.
See, there we have it. It's almost like a lesson in being the minister of propaganda. Well, he's guilty, but we have to convince people. And so how do you do that? Because people today lack the critical thinking skills. So what are they going to do? They're going to drip, 81 people, and see if they can catch them in a lie. Remember when we have Dr. Corsi on, and he's saying, look, they can get you lying for the FBI is easy because they write everything down, and who knows whether or not you can remember them or not. I mean, just the devious little libs are going crazy. Now, one more time here. Here is a great speech by the president at CPAC, which we brought it to you. And then you have the folks at CNN just going crazy with it. Let's take a listen.
Preserving heritage taps into historically darker times, certainly. Not only that, though, you say what we heard from the president in those remarks also could pose a national security concern.
So, by the way,
his statement makes me...
They're reacting to the president saying some people in Congress hate our country. And we see that with some of these newly elected folks that are ripping Israel, ripping America, talking about the evils of America. Look, if you believe that America is bad, then you really shouldn't be running for Congress.
Our heritage, that sounds a lot like a certain leader that killed members of my family and about 6 million other Jews in the 1940s. But on a national security level, the president talks about preserving our heritage as a catch-all for implementing policies that misallocate resources. He pretends that there are massive flows of illegal immigrants coming over our borders and is spending billions of dollars on a border wall emergency instead of paying attention to real national security threats. He sounds a lot like despotic leaders that have talked about white heritage and white nationalism around the world. And is
Okay, let's stop that. So she says the president sounds like Hitler. And by the way, if you go to the Drudge Report today, drudgereport.com, what's the headline? Well, Kevin Miller, that's what I have you. If I wanted to look at the headlines, I do it myself instead of listening to you. Massive amount of illegals coming in. Illegal immigration, the worst rate in a decade. The invasion intensifies. Busloads of illegal will surpass Obama's and his era. 55 illegals transported to hospitals every day. You know who's paying for that? You and me, brothers and sisters. And that's not a national emergency. We'll talk about it next. By the way, join the conversation now. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio. All right, we continue on. Let's get to your phone calls at 580-5436. By the way, we're very excited Friday. Back to Vision Charter School in Caldwell, thanks to CapEd Credit Union, T Mazda Subaru, promoting our school, securing our future. And don't forget, Wicked is in town. We've got an exclusive behind-the-scenes preview of that at KIDOTalkRadio.com. And don't forget while you're there to sign up for the newsletter. Let's get to the phones. A man that, if he doesn't have his own newsletter, should. Tom Munz, TomMunz.com. Munz, Tom, Twitter, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Tom.
Shucks, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Hey, you were talking about, we talk a lot about problems, and I was thinking back as I was listening to you to 2007 when we had all of our Liberty Keeps, our Don't Tread on Me flags and our upside-down American flags, and, man, I was harassed for that. But anyway, there was a lot of action back then, and you know what's really funny is that when you look at today and you look back then, 2007 was like 1980, compared to what it is now, and yet there's little to no activity going on. You've got the gun group going on, and you've got this and that, but overall, really not a whole lot going on. And I don't know how to encourage people to focus more on solutions than the problems. And for me, educating on the problem is important. But once you're educated and you continue to educate, and that passion sort of burns within, it's your duty to be able to carry that education into action. And if we're not banding together and creating coalitions and groups and to educate other people, and I was talking to a legislator the last couple of weeks, and you know what they told me? They said the liberals in Idaho are out calling and they're out emailing us easily by 50-1. Now I want that to sink into everybody, and everybody that is all complaining and boo-hooey about all the problems that are going on in this country, and realize if we don't start putting it together, it's over.
Well, Tom, and you've been fighting for years, and a lot of people have been moving in. We get 1,000 new people a month moving in, so you've been at this for a long time. You've been traveling, whether it's Montana, whether it's Idaho. Before you worked for John Birch, before you did anything else, you've been sounding the alarm for quite some time. The libs are at the gate.
And, you're right. And the one thing about it is that people are so worried about who I work for, the things that I say, and, oh, my gosh, I don't want to be. I used to meet with city council people that didn't want to meet with me in public because I was so extreme. But when I asked him how to define extreme, he was speechless. So, the company I work for, we've never been wrong on an issue in 60 years. I try very, very hard not to spread misinformation on the radio, and if I ever do, I hope to be, Hank or Max will call me into account for that kind of a thing. But this is how liberty grows. We plant the seed, and if we're lucky enough not to pee on it, it will grow. And that's the lesson that I've had to learn over the last 15 years without getting too excited to where people will see that people that'll think I'm fringe. We have to focus on solutions. When you talk about the border, we have to work together and say, okay, what is the problem and what is the solution? And if we don't have solutions, then let's look for people that have them. When I talk to the legislature or I talk to law enforcement, one thing is very, very clear to me. The only thing that they really are worried about is today. They want to be able to get home safe. They want to do a job. They want to do a job well done. But they all know inherently that all crap is going to hit the fan, and everybody's preparing for it, but nobody's helping each other plan for it. And we're planning for the crap to hit the fan rather than trying to prevent the crap from hitting the fan, which really is concerning to me. And then you have the special interest groups that are only interested in working on one issue when the enemy is working on every issue to undermine.
Right,
it.
and the enemy has the media. TomMunz.com. Love you. Thank you very much. Check him out on Twitter, MunzTom.com. Traffic and weather together. KIDO Talk Radio time is 6:57.
Here's Channel 7's Eric Everett.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate you. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to security guard Mike reacting to people going after Donald Trump, comparing him to Hitler. Good morning, security guard Mike.
All right there, Kevin Miller. It's good. It's going to be a great day here in Idaho and a great day talking to you as always. But Donald Trump, I saw his CPAC speech. I watched it 3 times. I loved it so much. And the guy can go off script. He can go off script. He's amazing. And the thing is that he's no Hitler. He just loves America. And if you love America, what's wrong with that? Nothing. You got to love this country. And when he said he went to Iraq and he was talking to those generals on the ground because he said his father never got rich sitting behind the desk. And you got to get out there and you got to beat the streets. And when he met that Raisin Cain, General Raisin Cain, he said, "What do you think?" He said, "You're the first one to ever ask us anything like that." And now they're solving this Iraq situation in a heartbeat, and they are in Afghanistan. They're going to listen to the men on the ground instead of listening to the generals behind the desk. I love it, and he's no Hitler. He's a great man, and so are you, Kevin Miller. And you have a wonderful day, and thank you for everything that you do for this beautiful Idaho.
Well, only keep it up with you, brother. God bless, security guard Mike.
Thank you, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And Kevin Miller on your home for Fox News in the Treasure Valley, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning.